Welcome aboard, traders, to a brief session charting across the board. As you guys can hear me, I've been sick for the past 10 days almost. However, I wanted to go over the chart on BTC and retouch the arguments on the current information or the previous information from 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3. Where are we in the price action for BTC? Of course, we broke above the upper trend line of the channel. That was the flag for the argument of the flagpole. So therefore, are we now heading into the measure move of that flagpole? After, of course, breaking above the upper trend line, retesting, there was a retest in the 4-hour time frame. We're monitoring these levels on or in our room, as well as other harmonic pauses in between. Previously, we were looking at this W formation, a butterfly that only manifested into a brief pause. The reason why I'm bringing these levels here is to present the same arguments that may be in the cards now on BTC, okay? Here, all bearish arguments are only acting as harmonic pauses. So therefore, the next support levels will depend on the current support levels from these lows, 107, to whatever the pivot of that high may be, okay? For true support levels, before, of course, having the measure move of the flagpole, if that were to be the case. So far, certainly buyers stepped in. They approached the levels at 107. There was a intersection between price and time on July the 6th. Prior to that one, we had June 19th and 20th, I believe. Prior to that one, also June the 8th, and now heading into August the 3rd as the next intersection between price and time. There is also another key day to monitor for July 19th. It should be either a day before or after, including July 18th, 19th, and of course the 20th. Depending on the support levels of this upward move, there are other levels to monitor before heading into that measure move, if there is indeed the argument for the measure move of the previously presented flagpole. Okay, that will be around 140, 145, only if this argument is respected. We are breaking out. Indeed, there was a retest once again on the 4-hour time frame. Therefore, we're tracking all those previous moves, such as this information also at the retest of the lower trend line on the 4-hour, okay? Despite my skepticism on this upward trajectory, I've been respecting the technicals despite of considering that this upward move may be I'm not sure if this may be the last leg of the move, but if that is the case, there are other altcoins to monitor in my radar. There are some similarities of other patterns previously printed, such as Cardano, Jasmy, among other altcoins that are within my radar. Why Cardano? Let's go briefly only to present here an argument on Cardano, on ADA. It was one of the previous setups last year, I believe. Therefore, the similarities on this weekly structure is what is calling my attention or caught my attention despite the major move on BTC. BTC, we already know that the bull run really started at the 16,000 region, not here, right? It's a continuation, maybe the last leg of the move, but let's see how the price action or what the price action will give us later on. Why? Because we now are playing with the extensions, and we mentioned that if the 0.8886 for the initial idea, okay, for that information that all of you already are aware, now becomes clearly a violation of the 0.8886. We went higher. So therefore, the room or the question remains whether this will turn into a cipher at the 1.272. The 1.41 is the last leg for the Cypher at 124. And of course, the 1.618 for 131 for a Shark, if that were to be the case. Okay? Only if that is the last leg of the move, unless, of course, these highs are already in. One of the variables also is based on the 4-hour or the daily time frame. There is a slightly variation of a W formation that is within my radar. It has been yesterday only, after clearly violating all the other W formations here on the 4-hour. We had 12,000 and change. However, we pierced through, we went higher, and now the patterns within my radar is this one that is causing the current harmonic pause. Harmonic pause doesn't necessarily mean a major rejection, rather potentially a consolidation only. We'll see. But so far we have printed a bearish deep crab pattern at the 118,000 region. Okay, we can play here with the A and C leg to potentially anchor the proper congregation of ratios for another butterfly, I believe here. Butterfly or deep girly can be interpreted as both. Okay, however, for the deep girly, if we anchor the 0.886 per se, we know that the 1.61A is the first ratio for the PRC. However, the complementary ratio based on this particular time frame can navigate to the 1.90. Okay, 1.90 will be a 120 over spill to 121. Okay, and only depending, of course, on the reactionary move. Important to know that we are already within this completion point. We have a pause so far on this W formation. So therefore, the new support levels are always depending on, or always depend on the support from the lows to the new highs, correct? Will be either at the 0.382, 114, the 0.50, 113, or the 0.618, 111. The support level now becomes a Kitonico level, okay? Yesterday also we were tracking the previous W formation on this upward traction from the lows to the highs. And we were looking at the common areas of retracement, the 0.382, the 0.50, and the 0.618. This one came shy by $150 change from the 0.382 before buyers stepped in, find support, and we have this upward traction. Okay, so there are levels indeed that Bitcoin may still navigate. Now, the reason why altcoins may provide another upward traction will be based on the readings that they are presenting on the weekly structure. An example here, this one, to put into perspective, is from Cardano from last year. That was indeed a major upward traction. So the reason why I focus on weekly structures are at the early structures at the 0.786 or the 0.886. And this is where we have the prior completion point last year, one of the setups from a year ago, June 17th, that was the early identification structure on Cardano once again, ADA, as well as XRP among others. PETA, VeChain, we had a few altcoins back to last year. However, the current information among other altcoins are within my radar. Therefore, we're tracking potentially opportunities if they present on the daily and the 4-hour, giving the readings on the weekly are giving such as informations. Okay. Therefore, this one was ADA last year, clearly an upward traction of over 337%, prior, of course, to the major decline. So profit-taking level is always subject to each trader. Now, new developments in the price action, we'll see if indeed some altcoins may run. By the way, ADA printed this W formation or M formation last year. However, on the monthly, there is a bigger one. So we mentioned last stream that the question remained whether some altcoins did not outperform as Bitcoin did, because Bitcoin, in theory, already printed its major run, okay, from those lows. And some altcoins did indeed run. However, there are some laggers still, I should say. But if there are indeed another upward traction, we'll focus potentially on some altcoins before presenting other arguments. The other one within my radar is ADA. Theta, clearly. This is a similar rating. If you guys look at the chart on ADA, Theta, the other one is Jasmy, also within our radar. There are certainly at a lower levels, okay? Not as Bitcoin. This is a reason why my skepticism of being extremely bullish at the highs was because of the upward traction from the lows, the 16,000 region that yielded nearly over 600%, okay? Which, by the way, the same argument of the 130, we of course adapt to new information. The same arguments before was the bull flag, or the 130 for the previous all-time high colors was previously presented, of course, here, right? That did not occur. We have an information, 32% decline, and from there on, of course, we adapt to new information. Everyone, thank you for being here. Now, question remains, are we going to print indeed the measure move, or will the W formation already printed on the 4-hour will create some turbulences as we head into July 19th through the 20th, okay? Keep these levels in mind. I'll see you guys on the next one, and remember to live a life with an attitude of gratitude. Hopefully, we'll be on track by next week after I recover. But I wanted to present the arguments, give an update after, of course, breaking above the upper trend line of the channel already presented 2 weeks ago. Everyone, thank you for being here. Clearly, buyer stepped in, therefore, the party continues so far. However, is crypto back on track, or we are printing the last leg of the move? We will see. Everyone, I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.